Welcome to the Focused Fundraiser, where we spend some time discussing and exploring how to prioritize and focus in fundraising. Because doing more is not the goal, doing what matters most is. And the goal of this time is to hear from successful fundraisers like Kevin, who are in the trenches and who are willing to share the practices they use on a daily basis to focus on what matters most and what moves the needle for them in their work. So today I am joined by Kevin Mehrer. Currently, you are the development director at Scouting America. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, the Northern Lights Council.
Northern Lights Council. Well, thanks for joining me today, Kevin.
I appreciate it, Rob. I'm happy to be here.
So, let's start with a little bit of your background. What roles have you played in fundraising over the years? And give me something that you've seen change in those years in fundraising.
Absolutely. So this is an interesting question to recap my experience, right? I've spent nearly my entire life some way surrounded by nonprofits. I think about the first time I did fundraising, and it actually goes back to when I was in maybe even junior high. I was in a part of a faith-based nonprofit, and I sent out letters to all of my family, support me as I'm doing this great thing. And so I look back, and most of my career has been surrounded or near nonprofits. I kind of started my professional career with scouting, and then spent about 8 years there in various roles. Was at the American Red Cross, at a local nonprofit, and then most recently I was in tech sales, kind of focusing into nonprofits. And now I'm back with scouting in the development role, leading the development team here, and excited to be back. So, yeah.
So what have you seen? Does anything come to mind that you've seen that has changed in fundraising over those years that you have kind of moved through these different roles?
Right. This is a very interesting question because fundraising is all about people, right? When you boil it down, it's all about people. It's all about that connection. So in that aspect, it hasn't changed. But if you flip the coin, if you flip that coin, so much of our world is changing, and I look at specifically technology, right? Engaging our donors, being present where they're present online. I think that's a huge piece as well. I think too, our donors expect very baseline expect that your nonprofit is online, active, updated, all of the things that when you're comparing yourself to a for-profit, that you would expect. And so the recurring gifts, the crowd raising, all of the things that are just popped up since I've been in the nonprofit world. If you're not embracing them, I would ask you to reconsider, because it is a huge portion of where we're going as a movement.
Interesting. That play. I mean, I think you hit it on the head too. Is people and relationship hasn't changed, and probably never will.
Yeah.
As long as people and not AIs are the ones that are donating to us, right? So, when I think of that, I think of stewardship, right? And stewardship can be people, it can be organization, but stewardship is all about building lasting legacy. And when you think of finding fundraisers and supporters and donors from a legacy and a stewardship standpoint, you're not hunting for just the next dollar from them. You're hunting for a lasting relationship.
Yes.
Have you found, I'm going a little bit off script of the questions I sent you, but have you found best practices that you use to make sure that you're putting relationship first, knowing that there's a long tail benefit from that of not making an ask too soon? Or how do you go about that?
I think people recognize, right, there's an organization and then there's people behind the organization as well. And so reaching through your organization and reaching out and picking up the phone and saying, hey, thank you for your first gift, your last gift, your, you know, in just a conversation, even if it's a voicemail, right? That they know you're a real person, not AI. But also, you know, knowing some of the basics. Maybe you know their birthday. Maybe you know some of the, you know, where they work. I I was managing a relationship for a nonprofit, and I saw one of my major donors in the newspaper. Right, they were on the newspaper, and so I don't subscribe to the newspaper, but I went out and bought it that day. I did the old lady thing, and I cut it out and I put it on some paper and I sent it in the mail. And I just said, congrats, we're excited to have you part of our community, right? What they were doing is a business accomplishment. It didn't really have any impact on my nonprofit, but I wanted to celebrate them as a person, right? Like, these are big things in their life that I wanted to celebrate with them, and that we're cheering them on and proud to have them as a supporter.
That's good. And that's stuff that isn't scalable in the sense of you can't do that to hundreds of people, right? But
Right.
those one-off touch points and those human touch points are huge. So pivoting on that a little bit, when you think of things that you've done in the past that you used to feel like it was important that maybe not wasn't scalable either or was, but over time you realized isn't worth the energy, what's something that comes to mind on that?
Okay. So this is, I might get some flack, and I'm okay with that, right? If I'd love to have a discussion about this, and I know a lot of nonprofits, they build their fundraising on this, and I understand it, and if it works for you, work it. But the when your donation becomes an exchange and not a relationship, right? If it's just a nominal business exchange, I think you're running yourself in a red zone, if you will. And what I mean by that is that classic sponsorship. You know, so oftentimes, you know, we say, well, you know, we'll slap your business logo on a piece of paper, right? Or maybe we'll put it up on Facebook, or, you know, a social media post. Those are great, and those are great tools. Don't get me wrong. But when your relationship is just leveraging your social media, that I think is a danger zone, right? And I would ask you, you know, can we flip that and drive it back to people, right? Who are the relationships you need to drive, and also who are the stories, the people stories you need to tell in your organization, that can help drive that point home from a business relationship to a lasting, sustainable, you know, partnership in impact.
Hmm, that's interesting. So in your role uh, at the Scouts, I mean, you touch a lot of different, you guys call them units, is that correct?
Yep, yep, a pack or a troop. Yep.
So how do you approach it in that sense where you have a lot of relationships that you could go after? How do you decide where to invest that time and make sure that it's not transactional?
Absolutely. Well, number one, I recently called up a one of my counterparts at another scouting area in the country, and I needed something from her. I needed a document, and I wanted to call her up, and we chatted a little bit. And it was interesting, Rob. The first thing she said to me was, Kevin, remember, this was said to me, and I'm going to say it to you: the job is bigger than you. And she didn't mean that, right, in a bad way. She just reminded me that you're taking on this role that is, I mean, has the impact of thousands of lives, right? You've got the financial future of people. You look around, and your coworkers' livelihoods, to some degree, might be on your shoulders, right? That's huge. But then make sure that you take that and move it forward with action. um, you can't do the role alone. You know, if you're fundraising in a silo with no volunteers, with no board members, with no committees, with no teammates, nobody's on your bus. I like to use the bus analogy. If nobody's on your bus, that's going to be a pretty hard ride, and you're not going to go very far. And so when I look across our council, we are the Northern Lights Council is one of the largest geographic councils in the nation, and there's no way for me to do that alone. And so I have to duplicate my efforts. I have to work through my team. I have to work through my coworkers. I have to work through my volunteers. Right. I have to make the simple question of, can you help me? Right, Rob, hey, can you help me? I need the help. And coming to them with that, obviously, that humility, but also the need. That's the only way that I've found success is through others.
Mm, that's so good. And it comes back to relationship, right? Where it's having the humility to lean on your team if you have a team, which you do, and lean on your donors and your supporters and your board members, all of that. Asking for help is a huge piece. I would consider that one method, but what would be another method that you use in this where you've got so many places that you could focus on spending your time
Oh,
and your effort? What's a method that you helps you keep track and stay on course, focus on the goals so you hitting your goals?
yeah. I'm a big fan of the wildly important goals, right? The wigs, out there, and so you have to have a rudder in the water, right? Because especially with development, I think there's a lot of great ideas, right? Everybody, and you get probably knocked on your door about 2 times a day. Hey, I've got a great idea for a fundraiser. If you set up a lemonade stand on the corner, it will just do great, and it will, right? It will be awesome. Um, and lemonade stands are awesome, right? But is that what you should invest your time in? That's a really good question, right? So if you don't have a rudder in the water that says this is our direction forward, and you and your team, your board, your volunteers need to direct that time. We right now, my supervisor, the scouting executive, the CEO of our council, we've put some effort into endowments. Right, these are life changing gifts that can have the opportunity to just uh, change lives, right, in a huge way. Um, those take a lot of time, but they also take a lot of effort. And knowing how much of my time, we need to focus there, but also being able to put out the fires locally, or in a smaller way with an annual campaign or helping any of that. So I think I guess what I do, right, is making sure that there's no mission creep. I think that's a very good thing, that you have to make sure you guard yourself on mission creep. Okay, what's my job? What's my focus? I could put my efforts in a lot of places, but I really need to focus on our annual campaign. I need to focus on this, and those are the big rocks that we crush first. Right, I think you have to focus on those big rocks to crush first. That's what we like to say. And then asking for help for the rest if you can, right? Or just prioritizing those urgent ones, important and urgent, and not important and urgent, and all those as well. So I think that's how I focus on my time, or at least try to.
The rudder in the water for helping direct that, whose job is it to I'll tee you up here. Whose job is it to steer that rudder? Is it yours? Is it the board's? Is it your leadership?
I think a lot of hands are on that, right? I think a lot of hands are reaching back and directing that ship a little bit. I think that in having that conversation with your supervisor, typically, right, it's the director of development or the CEO, your executive director, in making sure that you are hand in glove, right? Making sure that you understand his or her intentions. This is how we're going to move forward, and then marching, right? And so, whose job is it to steer the rudder? I'd say it's a lot of yours, but it's also taking input from your board, but also knowing, right, like that your board are a great set of leaders, and they're going to help you get there.
Sure. Yeah, and there's an ownership piece of that too, right? Where if
Absolutely.
you wait for your leadership or your board to do this, they may or may not steer you in the direction that you feel is focused and the right place to excel in fundraising. So that's a little bit of an opinion piece for me. But what's let's talk about burnout, because that's a question that I wanted to ask you. What's over the years, how have you avoided burnout? How have you kept from that fatigue of feeling like you're always underwater and there's always more that you can do? Do you have
Yeah.
some practices in place? How do you do that?
Well, it comes back a little bit to the volunteer piece, right? If you're looking around your table and you're not able to lean on others, I think that is you really need to kind of ask yourself, who can I bring on board? And maybe it's simple as folding letters and licking the envelope, right? I mean, maybe a small example, but that's great things for, hey, I just need help doing one simple thing, right? And kind of hooking somebody to be your volunteer. It can be the bigger items too, right? I think a few things that I've done is knowing what recharges my batteries personally, right? Spending time with my family, just getting away from work, to be honest, right? And just being able to spend that time. For me, it's camping, it's in the woods, it's doing things outdoors, it's being with my family, being with my kids, being with my wife, and then also it's a little bit of having someone you can reach up to, and it's a mentor, it's a peer, maybe it's someone to bounce ideas off of, someone who can speak life into your world, right? Or speak positivity, and even just to maybe commiserate with, grab a beverage and just say, man, and be in the trenches together. I think those are things that I've used, just personally to avoid the burnout, but also if you find yourself in burnout, I would ask yourself about that wildly important goal. Where are you in achieving that? Because I might ask you, are you creeping away from that? And you might need to cut some things off to get back to that one or two things that you need to be focusing on.
Hmm. Man, that is so good. And I think just to pull out one of those nuggets, the mentorship, I feel like, is one of the most, everybody sees the value in it. Not enough people do it. And to have somebody, I think a great saying is, a mentor doesn't need to be somebody that's hit the finish line. It's somebody that's a mile or two ahead of you, and they can give you advice, and they can, and to so find that person is so huge. I think more people just need somebody that they can bounce ideas off of and find clarity, where they can say, hey, I'm feeling underwater, and that person is a mile or two ahead and can say, well, this is why. That's
Mm-hmm,
huge.
mm-hmm. Let me add to that. I stepped into my role at the Red Cross, and the executive director there asked every one of the board members to take on one of the staff members and just take them to coffee, just meet with them, and I was paired up when I walked in with somebody awesome, just huge energy. And I remember calling this person in times of like professional discovery, right? Like, hey, I, just bouncing ideas off of, and getting that clarity. And you're right, he was maybe a mile ahead of me, but it was also like he could see where I was at. I could ask questions, and he was able to kind of speak into my life at the time, and it was a valued resource. So, I mean, every nonprofit, implement that as a board, and all nonprofits, right? How can we engage our board? This is a great way to engage our board. Pair them up with your staff, ask them, and maybe you don't call it mentorship, maybe you do, whatever you call it, but it's just someone who you can reach up to and say, hey, I need to grab coffee.
Mm, I love that. That's super cool. That's a great idea. All right, last question for you, Kevin.
All right.
When I think of, so your background, I know from personal knowledge that you ran as mayor as a write-in candidate in your hometown.
I did. I did.
You moved from the nonprofit sector into the for-profit sector, and now back into the nonprofit sector. The word that comes to mind for me for you is adaptability in your career.
Well, thank you.
What has that taught you? How does adaptability translate into what you do in fundraising day in and day out?
Oh, adaptability. Well, thank you, Rob. I appreciate the encouragement there. Well, when you're on a donor meeting, um, you know, I guess a little bit what you get, right. You might, uncover some things, but I think also, you might not. I remember a couple meetings where I've been in, where I uncover something that, a passion point that I wasn't aware of, right. A way to connect the mission to this individual in a new way. And so I think always listening, right. You always listening for that opportunity that is, I think, the key to adaptability. And then also, I think that, you got to connect the dots along the way, being able to find whether it be a passion or someone that maybe they're connected to, maybe it's an introduction, but also finding your mission and being that champion for your mission, and saying, hey, you're really interested in this. Well, let me share with you this, or even asking for permission to share with them the next time, because you might not be fully prepared, right. That's a really good strategy. It's just like, hey, can I make another meeting, and I'd love to share with you about our new this initiative. And oh, sure, yeah, absolutely. Or even just send it up in a letter. But yeah, when I think about adaptability, yeah, you do have to be on your toes in fundraising, because there's a little bit of a wild card factor.
That's great. I love it. Well, thank you, Kevin, for
Absolutely.
joining me today and giving your advice to your fellow fundraisers. I hope that if you're listening, then you feel the pull to do less, but do it better. I hope that this conversation gave you that nudge and to help you focus and lean into the ruthless elimination of more. So we're live every Tuesday at 11 Central. So we'll see you next week.
Thank you.